The buzz around Meghan Markle's upcoming appearance on The View had reached a fever pitch. It was her first time on the long-running talk show, and every media outlet was talking about it. Ever since she and Prince Harry stepped away from royal duties, Meghan had become a lightning rod for controversy, adored by some, criticized by others. But she remained unapologetically herself. That morning, the studio audience waited with electric anticipation. As the lights brightened and the theme music faded, Meghan walked onto the set with a calm smile and confident posture. She wore a sleek navy blue dress, understated yet elegant. Her hair was pulled back, her tone measured. She greeted the co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sarah N., Alyssa Farah Griffin, and Sunny Hostin with grace. At first, the conversation stayed light. They spoke of motherhood, mental health, advocacy, and Meghan's work with the Arkewell Foundation. There were even a few laughs. But as the segment moved into deeper territory, Sunny Hostin adjusted in her chair and looked directly at Meghan with a focused expression. Meghan, Sunny began smoothly, a lot of people admire the way you stood up for yourself and walked away from something that millions of people dream about. But critics say your actions confused people. You left the royal family for privacy, but then signed huge media deals, published a memoir, gave explosive interviews. Do you think there's a contradiction there? The audience went still. Meghan blinked and then nodded thoughtfully before answering. I understand why people might see it that way. But here's the thing, privacy doesn't mean silence. It means having control over what you share, when, and how. I've never asked to disappear. I've asked to live without fear and distortion. A quiet round of applause rippled through the studio, but Sunny continued. But some people wonder. Meghan, have you used your platform to empower others, or just to rewrite your narrative in your favor? At what point does speaking your truth stop being about healing and start being about control? The tension thickened instantly. Even Joy Behar raised her eyebrows. The line between pointed question and confrontation had just been crossed. Meghan sat still for a beat longer than usual, her gaze fixed on Sunny.com but intense. I think it's dangerous, she said. To suggest that a woman speaking about her own pain and journey is somehow manipulative. We've accepted for too long that women, especially women of colors, be grateful and quiet. I didn't step back to control anything. I stepped back because I was drowning. A murmur swept across the audience. Some nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Alyssa Farah Griffin tried to step in. To be fair, Meghan, the scrutiny has been relentless. I don't think most people could have survived what you endured. But Sunny wasn't done. There's another side to that, though, she pressed. You call out the media, but you've also participated in it when it serves you. And when you talk about being silenced, some would argue here in the US that your voice has become louder than ever. Are you perhaps confusing criticism with suppression? That was it! The studio fell silent. Meghan's eyes didn't waver. You don't get to define the volume of my voice, she said softly. You don't get to tell someone how much pain is enough for them to speak. This isn't about attention. It's about reclaiming power after years of being misunderstood, misrepresented, and maligned. I didn't choose to be silent. I chose to speak when it finally became safe. The silence lingered longer this time. Meghan's tone hadn't risen, but her words rang with the force of someone who had held back too long. Backstage, producers were panicking. The live feed showed an audience split, some nodding fervently in support of Meghan, others visibly uneasy. The co-hosts exchanged quick glances, unsure of how to proceed. Joy tried to pivot. Okay, that's a lot to unpack, she chuckled nervously. We'll be right back after the break. The cameras cut to commercial, but during the break, Meghan was quietly escorted off stage. A senior producer approached her team and, in hushed tones, suggested it was best for the rest of the segment if she didn't return. Just to keep the energy balanced, they said. She didn't protest. She just nodded and gathered her things. Her face unreadable. By the time the show resumed, her seat was emptying. The audience was left with more questions than answers backstage. Meghan stood motionless for a moment, absorbing what had just happened. The corridor outside the View's set was buzzing, producers murmuring into headsets, assistants darting back and forth, but she seemed untouched by the chaos around her. Her calm, however, was not an absence of emotion. It was the product of years of learning how to hold her composure in rooms where she wasn't truly welcome.